Hey guys, Scott here. Today I'm going to do something I haven't done in a while. I saw a request for it in my last video's comments, so I figured I would just do it again. But it's just going to be a killer analysis game where I'm just going to go over one of my old games and just go over, what happened and the decisions I took to kind of come back from, frankly, a really, really bad start and still try to win. This is going to be Wesker focused, obviously. Like a lot of the things I talk about here are not going to be in reference to other killers or anything like that. But yeah, figured this would serve as sort of like a pseudo Wesker guide, but also just standard gameplay guide too. So I'm on Gas Heaven, and the first thing you want to do, obviously, as most killers, is just kind of go as far as possible to the other side of the map as you can. Wesker's pretty good at immediately doing that. You'll notice as I'm going to this area, I'm still looking at the entire map to see any scratches, crows, or any sign of anyone that's far away. But luckily, I find someone pretty early, which is always a really good start. You always want to find people early. The people that I went against this game, if I remember, this was 2 days ago, they were all actually pretty decent. So this should serve as a example of honestly pretty decent players too. I'm still not sure if I should have abandoned that. The reason I did, and I remember this is what my thought process was, I abandoned that chase because I only found one person. And typically when people spawn, they spawn at least 2 and 2 together. So I assumed someone else would be kind of nearby, which means there would be gens being worked on that I'm not stopping. And with my build, stopping gens is one of the key aspects. I mean, it's one of the key aspects of the game itself, but setting up a lot of eruptions and stuff like that is extremely important. So I knew there was going to be another player nearby, so rather than chase one guy and have possibly 3 gens pop, I'd rather start a chase on one guy, get some pallets out of the way, move the chase to another guy, so he's got to run to a different gen, and now really only 2 gens are being worked on. So that is the whole ideal with this. Unfortunately, the Kate hit her really good dead hard, so I just sort of have to abandon her as well. But you'll notice I'm starting to spread as much pressure as possible. This is when people say spread pressure across the map. This is what they mean. This is spreading pressure. I'm not just focusing on one chase. And yeah, the thing is, not every killer can do this. Wesker is very good at it because of the infection mechanic, but every killer can do this to some extent with these perks. If you have a build that allows you to play in this way, you get rewarded for spreading pressure, and you don't necessarily have to commit to every chase in a bad area. And so that's what I kind of do on my Wesker build is I really only take chases I know are going to be able to end in a decently quick fashion. That being said, not everything always goes to plan. Sometimes I'm going against really good players or I screw up a bunch and I'm in a scenario where I just can't down people fast enough for that to actually matter. And this is sort of what happens here. Like I don't get a gen, or I don't get it down until 2 gens are done, which is really never a situation you want to be in as killer. Now Wesker is really good at shack. Wesker pretty much is guaranteed to hit at shack no matter what. You just have to be patient and you pretty much zone them into the scenario. Unfortunately, I dropped her down into the basement, which doesn't damage her, but it also basically removes her movement. So I still end up getting a hit regardless. So I finally have one down with 2 gens done, almost 3 gens done. I finally get an eruption, but all of the gens that I kicked were not being worked on at the time, so I didn't even get the incapacitate effect. So overall, things are not going super well. I see someone on the hill, but it doesn't matter because they're not doing a generator. And so like I'm still trying to pressure gens more than I care about an ace dancing on top of a hill. I'm sorry, Ash. So as soon as I see him start to go for the save, now he becomes a threat because now he is trying to make it so that everybody is currently unimpeded again. This should be a free hit for me because, again, Wesker is amazing at check. I do throw him into nothing, but because I have the extended throw add-ons, I throw him basically into a dead zone, so it still ends up getting me a hit regardless. And this is good. This is exactly what you want. You want the team to be in the same area. This is the worst thing survivors can do, is be grouped up in the exact same area. And so by literally throwing people into the same area, you can sort of do that. Now someone goes for the save here and I have an option to slug here. But I'm trying to like pretend that the new Unbreakable thing is live. And plus I don't slug that much anyway, and I tend to still do all right. So I didn't really want to slug there, but that probably would have been the more optimal play. I would have gotten an easier hit on somebody. But luckily Kate stays around to body block and doesn't actually get the save. So it ended up just giving me free pressure. So probably a mistake from that Kate. Give me pressure. Cape does a really smart play here. I remember I double charge, I wait for a juke, but she doesn't juke, she just runs straight. Holding W against good players is one of the smartest things you can do. It doesn't matter the killer, it's demo, huntress, or it doesn't matter what kill you are. Holding W against good players is very, very smart because they expect you to juke, and if you don't juke, you end up wasting a shit ton of time. As you can tell, she gets a bunch of distance here, and this chase goes on for 25 more seconds just because she had held forward, which is, it's not like a mindless, stupid play. That was actually extremely smart of her. So it takes way, way longer to down here. And now the problem is I am still at the other end of the map with only one generator here, and no one else is really currently being pressured at the moment. We have 2 injured people, but that's not really that much pressure. You can see the Ash. I keep calling him Ace, and I would just combine it with Ash, and I said Ash. You can see that the Ash just healed, and the Yui is also injured as well, but still, that means they could just be basically working on gens unimpeded right now. So I'm starting to see I have a little bit of a 3-gen. You can see those 3 here, and that's when I start to decide to play solely around this. Unfortunately, Kate has Deliverance, so her hooked in the middle of nowhere would have been great for me, but it's not because she has Deliverance and she just saves herself. So I know I have time to kick this generator because the Rebecca has nowhere to go. She's in a corner. Typically, you don't want to kick gens if you're going to lose distance in a chase, but I know the Rebecca couldn't go anywhere because she was in a corner of the map, so I had all the time in the world to kick the gen. We finally get Shack Pal out of the way, and this is when I start to decide, okay, I've got 3 gens kind of on this half of the map. I've been clearing a shit ton of pallets on this side of the map. I should be able to start maybe holding somewhat of a 3-gen here, because the whole point of Killer and Endgame is to have a dead zone in which there are generators and areas that survivors must go. And once there is, it doesn't matter how good you are at the game anymore, because if you have no pallets or anything, you could be the best player in the world, you're still going to die. So this is the last pallet on this side of the map. This entire half of the map is now a complete dead zone. And so at this point, it doesn't matter how good the survivors are, they're going to eventually go down. Unfortunately, this Rebecca was really smart and wasted a bunch of time simply rounding corners very quickly and very tightly, so I wasted a bunch of time. That being said, I'm still going to infect her because it still gives her another side objective. So every time you want to, hit somebody, it always should be an infection hit with Wesker. There are times when you're not going to get the chance, but if you are presented with the opportunity, you always, always, always want to go for an infection hit because the slowdown is just huge. These guys are also running away very early, which is a common sign of, unfortunately, very smart players. They're not even going to entertain the possibility of staying near the gen and being brave and working on it when you're kind of in their face. They just run really early, so you can't actually chase them. The thing is, though, they have to do the generators. They have to come back into you. And if you have someone, for example, hooked in the middle of this 3-gen, they are forced to come into your dead zone now. So that is basically what I'm playing around. It's not really camping anymore. It's just this is the only side of the map that matters anymore. That gen way down there is irrelevant. That gen is going to go. There's nothing I can do to stop it. At this point, you have to just accept that it's going to go away. And yeah, this can seem like proxy camping stuff, but when you think about it, I'm just patrolling my 3 generators. It's not like I have any other options here. So this Yui really runs away super early, so I double dash just to get in range so she wouldn't be able to just cross the map again. I take my free hit on her, and the good thing is this sort of forces her back into that side of the map. But I did kick this door before, so I think I just immediately abandoned the chase because there's no point. So I go back to the hook. I'm not planning on tunneling off the hook or anything like that, but I do know there's going to be at least 2 people here. You always want to go where there's multiple people. So I wasn't planning on tunneling off the hooks, and I still don't, but I mean, Rebecca was opening a chest right in front of me. It was pretty tempting, but honestly, she still would have borrowed time. Wouldn't give me much. I do a huge fuck up here. That's my first big mistake in the match. I miss a point blank charge, which is just really, really bad. So I'm forced to take a regular M1 on this Ash. The good news is this whole side of the map is still dead. The Shack pallet's gone, and this killer is insanely strong at Shack. So he still dies regardless. It's just going to take me more time. That far gen pops because, honestly, we knew it would. It's just in the middle of nowhere. But we're in a scenario now where even though I still am not even halfway down to killing people and we only have 1 gen left, I'm feeling way more confident about winning because now the map has gotten way, way smaller. And this side of the map that all the gens are on is completely dead. There is nothing left on this, so the survivors have no options but to simply run really early when they see me, and that's typically what they do. But in a war of attrition, Wesker sort of eventually wins that because you will eventually run out of sprays, and then you're just permanently slowed, and then you will all die. in that scenario. So wars of attrition tend to go very well for Wesker. But again, even if you're a killer that doesn't have that, most killers have some type of mechanic that helps in this scenario where they're just in a giant dead zone. Yeah, if you're like Pig or something, yeah, you're not going to be able to do much. Even with a perfect setup like this, and survivors that are very smart, running as far away as possible from the 3-gen. Some killers just can't do anything, but that's less an issue with the game and more an issue with those killers are just simply weak, and those killers need to be buffed. So at this point, I figure I'm going to try to get as many free hits as possible while they're being pressured, but I don't have the time to do that. I don't have the time to leave my only objective, which is defending these generators. So I end up going back here, knowing that they're forced to come into my dead zone. There's no reason to chase in that main building because that's where all the pallets still are. I haven't even been to that half of the map yet. Everything is still up there. So all of my chases I want to have on this side. I remember debating whether or not to chase that Rebecca, but I know in the back of my head I was thinking, I have Eruption, I have Call of Brine. They have to come into my dead zone. If they run early, that's fine. It's a stalemate. They can never win. So it ends up being a little boring, but if they want to play in the safe, boring way of running away super early, then I'm going to play in the safe, boring way of not chasing them as they run super early because there's just simply no reason to. So more and more of my chases start happening here. And now I don't want to charge people into that dead zone. I'm sorry, I do want to charge people into that dead zone, but sometimes the survivors will be smart and they'll just continue running straight and just not really let you do that. I know I'm not going to be able to get to down here because that door is open and there's still pallets here. And, you know, I don't even take this chase. Like I said, there's no generators here. There's no reason to take chases here. This is the only stuff that matters. And eventually, because there's no resources, they'll just run out of lives. Like they're going to eventually run out of lives no matter what. Even if they split between these gens, they're still going to be eventually screwed. But the thing is, it still comes really close. Like they were still pretty good with it. At this point, going 1 to a gen is not the best idea anymore. Kind of going 2 and 2 is probably better when you've got that last generator with some progress on it. So that's what they were trying to do there. But I was able to interrupt them. And instead of hooking them in the basement where there's nothing to defend, I hooked them right under this generator because this is, you know, in the middle of my 3-gen, which is an area I want to be more than I want to, you know, have people go into the basement. I think basement a lot of the times is overrated unless it's like a central component like on Wrecker's Yard or something. Basement, unless you're planning to basically camp the basement, it doesn't really give you as much value as you think it would. Hooking people in the middle of your 3-gen is just infinitely more useful. And so that's what I did there. And now I'm still under no pressure of camping that guy on the hook because I know there's still other people working on the other gens. I can't afford to just sit there because they will eventually win the game. I might kill the guy on the hook, but then, you know, I'm in a scenario where I only get maybe 2 kills. And I don't want that. I want to go for 4Ks every time. So now they're starting to spread their pressure. They have basically 1 on each generator, and this becomes decently hard to juggle. But like I said, they eventually will run out of lives. There's just nothing they can do to, you know, prevent the fact that they're starting to run out of infection cures. They can't just always immediately heal themselves. I'm still going to apply infection, just Giga Chad, but that was a huge mistake on my part. I forgot she was on Death Hook. Applying infection there didn't make any sense because she was on Death Hook and the infection is not going to slow anything down because her dying is going to slow things down. So that was another mistake. That's the second big mistake I made. I gave her the opportunity for a dead hard and tried to slow her down in a scenario where the slowdown wasn't even relevant to begin with. So huge mistake. Luckily, as that happens, it's hard to see from here, but that eruption saved me the game single-handedly because that jam was like 99%, and I erupted the one guy that was about to finish it. So that was an extremely important time to down that person. Would have been better if it was earlier, but that did save me a lot of pressure here. So now we'll go back and kick this again. And at this point, now we've got a 3v1 with a 3-gen in a dead zone. And at this point, it's pretty much impossible to lose. Like, they just simply don't have the efficiency anymore to deal with this. So at this point, I start kind of venturing out into the map because I know I can't really lose anymore. And honestly, I think the Kate knows I can't lose anymore either. Because, like, once you're in that scenario in a 3v1 in a dead zone with a 3-gen against Wesker, you're just fucked. Like, you can't really come back from that. So I think at this point, they just eventually give up. And then that's the game. So a lot of that match came down to an extremely bad start. I had 2 big mistakes, but for the most part, it was due to intentionally chasing people in the right areas and forcing chases in the right areas, because if you hook someone in an area, you force people to enter that region. And as much as they want to spread out, you have to save the person on the hook eventually. And when you do that, now there's 2 people in the dead zone that you've created, and you can make a play with that. And eventually it boils down to them doing all the other gens, but you've got sort of a safer area on the map that you can control. And eventually that will trump, them spreading out and doing all the stuff. But you do need the build for it. You can't just do this with a 4 chase perk build. It'll never work. You need to do, a build that incentivizes you to do that. So you're not going to be able to do this with anything. You do need to build specifically for this. But if you have that, or if you have a killer that benefits in this way as well, you will be able to win these matches when they really seem like they are going to be pretty unwinnable. Because it's a really shit feeling when you've got, 2 gens done and no one's down yet. It's just a really bad feeling. But it happens a lot. And I think the important thing is you can't really get discouraged. Again, unless you're like, Myers or Pick or someone. If you're a really shitty killer, then you can get discouraged because you're probably going to lose. But most killers in the game can come back from that given the correct setup and smart strategic play. But that's pretty much it. This game is effectively over at this point. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'll probably do these like maybe once every month. I stopped doing them because they honestly just not that many people wanted to watch them because they're long and drawn out and not too many people are interested in long-winded analysis and stuff like that. So I'll probably do this maybe like once every month or two. But hope you enjoyed, guys, and comments who wanted that. And thanks for watching. See ya.